Hey everybody, coming at you as Denver Hero with another episode of Game Talks. And surprising no one, we'll be continuing the Megaman series with Megaman ZX. One where Megaman goes sentai and cyber elves become moot. Without further ado, let's get into it. Like with many of these, I didn't start with the first one. I played the second one first. My brother actually played the OG ZX first. I didn't get to play until like afterwards, like actually a good while afterwards. I just wasn't very interested in it initially. Not that I wasn't interested in playing it, but I got the second one, so I didn't really feel the need to go back to the first one immediately. So I just kind of pushed that off for as long as I possibly could. Not ever since I didn't want to play it, I just kind of left my purview. It was kind of like at this point where, again, when we were younger, we stopped really seeing my cousins. Also, if they had it, I don't know about it. So we started getting this stuff ourselves. So sometimes it would take longer for us to be aware of it. However, I do remember the very first time actually seeing or playing the first ZX game. Playing in quotes was actually in Walmart, where they used to have like those game station things that are connected to like the game cases, and we could like play test the games. That's where I saw Megaman ZX. I was like, oh hey, this is really cool kind of deal. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll get this at some point. I'll grab this. This looks really fun and interesting. Plays like the Megaman Zero series, why the crap not? And plays like the Megaman Zero series is a really good way to describe it. Again, in gameplay, it's nigh on identical to the Megaman Zero series in its basic gameplay. Not really a lot of deviation there. However, the only really claim to fame, its unique little plot point, are the biometals. These little, I guess, robot things that vent or hail depending on who you use in the first one. You know, can you use to transform into Megamen. And there is one biometal for each of the 4 Guardians and X and Zero, so there are 6 in total. And each individual one can do various things. But, and this is where I personally think it kind of fell flat just a little bit, and that they needed to merge with Model X, because I guess lore-wise, only one biometal per person. So X only goes with Venter Ale. Model Z only goes with Garete, and then the other ones go with their respective people we don't see until ZX Advent, and I'll get into them when I get there. But in the gameplay, there really isn't a lot to talk about, which is why it's not really talking about it. It's literally the same thing as Mega Man Zero for the most part, but there's like some kind of mission board. You can take missions and whatnot and get like energy crystals, other like really cool hidden items. You can get sub-tanks and other things littered around the world in there. And hey, that's fun, that's fine, I have no problems with that. But my only problem was the map. I guess when I was younger, the map was very confusing to me. I just kind of had to fumble around until I found another area when I did play, and I'm just like, oh, this is, it was more than a little annoying. Not in the bad way, like I'm not denigrating it, but it was irritating because I just couldn't find everything. I effectively had to look stuff up on how to get it, because I forget which one it was. I was spending a long time. I think it was one of the sub-tanks. I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna look it up online. I'm not dealing with this anymore. And I just looked it up, and that was that, really. But beyond that, it's really the same thing as the Zero series gameplay wise. Yes, every biometal has its own like unique play style. Like X is just Mega Man X from the X series. ZX is literally just Zero from the Zero series, which I think is a letdown. And HX is Harpuya inspired, which is also the most broken one, because you hit those crit points, you deal a lot of damage. That's the only one you need, really. PX, or Phantom PX, it's all like Ninja E with kunai and shuriken, and I was like, oh, you're interesting. Alexis, you can swim in water really good and make ice things, slash with your staff. I'm like, hey, that's pretty fun. And then there's FX, which is Fafnir, which is all that, again, very strong, powerful, break certain blocks in the environment, and you can actually change the direction of your bullets, and that's actually very, very useful. And cyber-robes don't really make a return, despite them being important to the plot. Important, kind of. Yeah, well, they're important to the plot of the story of ZX. They don't show up like almost at all in gameplay, save for like little minor roles, which again I found to be very disappointing since I liked the cyber owls. I thought they would be more useful, but I guess they decided to move on from that, unfortunately. But yeah. Now let's speak of the story. The story follows the vent or ale, depending on who you pick, and their trials and tribulations with dealing with the Serpent Company. In which it opens up, Vent or Ale's talking to Garete, their like lifelong best friend, mentor person who works for a delivery company by the same name. I think he owns it. They're delivering a package to these chaps called the Guardians, and they're going to deliver it. They get attacked by Mavericks. Garete and Vent or Ale gets separated. The bottle calls out to them. They transform into Model X, and they go through. That's insert the intro stage here. They win. They go, and yeah. Meets the Guardians, I think, at that point, or talks to them. Something like that, and kind of that's what the whole kind of opens up. Effectively, some companies bad, stop them. There are other biometals out there. We need you to get them, including this one and others. So yeah, get them and bring them back here so they don't get them, and they can complete their plans. That's literally the basic plot of it. There's also the whole Model W thing in there, because they're trying to reawaken Model W. But when I first played it, it didn't feel shoehorned in there. But it felt like we weren't really dealing with that for most of the game. We were just trying to get all the biometal, I guess, if I remember correctly, to increase our power enough to be able to actually fight him. I'm like, alright, yeah, I can get behind this. Each of the other biometals, the ones that represent the 4 Guardians of Master X, are held by these robots called pseudoroids, with which the biometal is split in half. So there's 2 pseudoroids for each one biometal, so they have a lot more guys they can use, right? And from there, you get like one half of the abilities when you first get it, and the other half of the abilities when you get the second part. So you have the complete biometal, which adds, I guess, an interesting layer of, I want to say, difficulty to it or complexity, but not one I personally think was wholly necessary, because it didn't really add anything. Because kind of took it away. It just held out on me on trying to and getting all of my abilities until a later point, because it felt like it was artificially inflating the length of the story just a little bit. At least me personally. And just kind of sort of detracted from it, which is why I gotta get more into this when I get to Advent. Likely what they did more so in Advent, is a tiny bit more. But at any rate, throughout the course of like the beginning, the first half of the story, you're going around kind of getting, like, doing missions for the Guardians, right? Then you meet up with Garete again. You're fighting this wing plane thing. It's about to crash on you. He cuts it in half. Oh, lo and behold, the best friend of the guy who has Model X is the wielder of Model Z0, to the surprise of no one, and also one of the cooler looking designs. Well, then again, there's also a favorite character, so I'm not going to say there isn't some amount of bias in there for that, but be that as it may. And this is the beginning of my agitation a little bit, because soon after that, right, we go into like the city. It's like being attacked by Mavericks. It's on fire and whatnot. So Vent and Garete are dispatched by the Guardians to go and deal with it. And so they deal with it, right? They go and deal with it. But when they meet up with Serpent, right? He brain controls frickin' Garrett, and then they forced to fight him. And this is a lost travesty which so many people had to correct. There was no remix of the Megaman X 0 vs. X fight theme in there at all, which would have been beautiful, but no. So they fight, we beat him, but our story-wise, Vent and or Ao's wounds are bad and they're going to perish because they just de-mega merged, right? So Garrett tells Model Zero or Z to go over there to help him. Like, well, no, your wounds are bad. If I do this now, you're gonna die. And he's like, it's alright, blah 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 blah. So then he de-mega merges, and here comes a pretty cool scene. He's surrounded by Mavericks. It's sunset instead of nighttime now. Weird. And you double mega merges into Model ZX, which looks just like Zero from the Zero series, which again was a letdown. Because when I hear someone like ZX, right, I imagine a more complete union of Zero and X. The same about all of these other guys as well. These guys are just the 4 Guardians of Master X. X is only there to facilitate the double mega merge, because X can, like, I guess the whole thing, X can copy people's abilities, and because of that, the Model X1 has the ability to double mega merge with another one in a similar vein. So I'm like, okay, fine, I can get behind that. But why is that? Why am I just playing as Zero again from the ZX series? If I wanted to do that, I mean, a Zero series, but if I wanted to do that, I just play as Zero again. That's play the Megaman Zero series. No, the weapon is just a standard Buster and Sword, and that's it. And that was kind of a letdown, especially one called the Ultimate Mega Man. I kind of wanted to do more X-y things in my ZX game, because after the first part of the game, you don't get Model X back until you beat the game. You don't even see the guy, you don't touch him, you don't do anything. And I'm just like, wait a minute, so I can't go back into my base form? Why not? I don't have a choice in the matter. Okay, whatever, fine. So from there you continue, you get all the field pseudoroids and whatnot, and I don't remember, I think there's a mid-stage at some point that explains more of the plot. You fight Prometheus and Pandora, servants of Serpent, well, people following his orders rather, because there's this game of destiny with all the chosen Mega Man and all this other stuff, which is just, again, part of their plan to conquer the world, Model W and all that. And the plot isn't the most interesting thing, in all honesty. Some little, like, minor lore points are more interesting, like how the leader of the Guardians is the same little girl from the Mega Man Zero series. She, like, grown up apparently. Okay, hey, that's pretty cool. But beyond that, I'm just like, it's a pretty basic plot. Bad guys going to unleash ancient evil thing and using the power of these other, 6 hero stone things going to take over the world or some garbage. You, hero, has to stop him. That's effectively it. But there really isn't a lot to really talk about in that sort of story that I can recall. By the time the last mission rolls around, you have all the biometals. I think you fight Prometheus and Pandora again at, I forget where it was, but at the point you fight Prometheus and Pandora again, you go through the boss rush, right? You go through, like, the Wily stages, or the Sigma castles, or the Neo Arcadian, whatever you want to call them. You go through the boss rush and then fight Serpent, who's all decked out in his own biometal Model W form, which is a lot bigger than the other biometals. It's like because Model W is the, like, pieces of the colony Ragnarok that in the end of Mega Man 04 that Weil, like, merged with in the end there, and, like, I guess some of his soul essence or whatever was sealed in there. So it's very powerful, very old and whatnot, and can corrupt people and turn them evil and all that. Which I'm just like, oh, okay. And so seeing this, I guess Seal made the other biometals and gave people the power of the ancient legendary heroes. And to everyone's eternal consternation, didn't include craft into there, but hey, I'm not going to get into that. Yeah, because by the end of it, it's really weird, and that after, right, you uh beat, at least to me, it's weird. After you beat Serpent, right, that's like he keeps the biometals, but at some point loses them somehow, which helps segue into ZX Advent. Which I'm like, I'm confused at that. How did you, with all your power and skills, lose them? But hey, I don't know. I don't remember exactly how. I remember more ZX Advent. That was the first one I played, and because to be honest, I feel like you could do a bit more with that, thanks to the A-Trend system, which interesting. The last thing I'll really say with ZX is that not that it was a fun game. It was fun. I'm not like getting on that. I'm getting on the story more for this being, again, just generic Mega Man plot. So yeah, there. Not that it was in the gameplay is fun, but it was just generic Mega Man plot. Evil guys doing evil things, gonna go into a giant machine thing to gain power, and I'm gonna win. Good guys stop him. That's it. And oh yes, and then there's Model OX, where you try to find Omega Zero, I guess, remains, and beat him, and then you get OX. And I'm like, oh cool. Who's again very powerful. On to ZX Advent. Now your choices are between, again, actually very interesting, Ash or Gray. The reason interesting is because Gray is a Reploid, Ash is a human, right? But it's really what happens more so later on in the story, and I'll get into that in a bit here. But for those two, the games are very different. Instead of like Vent or Ale, it's literally copy paste, just swap out the characters. Everything works exactly the same. There is no difference. They're like at all beyond the two male or female characters that are there. But these two are very different. Like for Gray, he wakes up in a facility. Like he's like someone was building and preparing him to do something, and he wakes up and gets out and whatnot, right? Fights the boss, blah blah blah. Things happen. He gets Model A. As to where Ash is a part of a mercenary company who's on a mission to get, and I quote because she likes saying it, to get her booty. And to I guess get it from all these robots, all these guardians. I don't remember exactly which one. I remember more about it, but I don't remember everything about it. And this is just that the dramatic difference, and I appreciate that. Isn't this copy paste? But at the end of the day, it's really like the same thing. They go into the train, they get Model A or whatever, get Model A, and then they fight the first boss, and the story goes from there. And the gameplay for the most part is nigh on identical to the Zero series, but now you have more choices than you can transform into. In that you can actually transform into the bosses that you defeat, and you get to use their abilities, and that's really cool. I've always wanted to do something like that, and when I got it, I'm just like, yes, I put hours into that game just because I just like effing around as the bosses in various situations. What's great is there are just more bosses, different ones, instead of the bosses that all had, like, at the end of the day, it's the other half of what you should have, in my opinion, already had from ZX, which I'm like, that's a little, at least in my person, a little lazy. I get it. You're exploring like this new like biometal thing, kind of see where it goes. So you pick a not bad idea, maybe not the greatest idea for it, and I'm like, fine, I can forgive. It's not like a capital offense. I'm like they've insulted me and my family or anything like that. I'm just saying. But at any rate, with the similarities in gameplay, I don't really feel the need to really get too much into it, because it's each defeated enemy has its own like play style and different advantages. like the giant insect fire looking one, she can fly, which is pretty cool. The like ice fish looking one can swim and can actually slow down time, which is very good. And also the top of the carapace shell thing is immune to spikes, extra good. The very first one, the fire like buck guy, he can jump really high, destroy certain blocks. It's again, each one has its own pros and cons, advantages and disadvantages. And then it's just, again, I just appreciate that it's the variety. I can pick one and just see what happens, opposed to you have like what, 5, 6, eventually 7 choices, and 2 of those choices are effectively like, it feels like one's a stronger version of the other one, because OX I think is stronger than ZX gameplay wise. So I'm just like, oh, okay, I just get the appearance of Omega Zero, and I operate very similarly to ZX anyway. So again, I'm just playing the Zero series again. As to where this, you get all of those, like the original, like, well, not all of these 6, like the 5. You get the 4 Guardians, Master X's, Biometals, and ZX, right? Then you get all the bosses ones. Then you get like a small little chibi like model A thing that you can actually use for completing a mini game, but that's pretty fun. But but I digress. The only other difference in gameplay is that in their chart shots, Gray's is outwardly more powerful. Ash's, however, will lock on and deflect and bounce off of the surface and whatnot, making hers very good. To the point where when I was younger, my small, monkey flip brain couldn't really comprehend a lot of the tips and tricks you could actually use with her. I underestimated her, and I feel bad about that. Younger me should be ashamed that it didn't see her true potential. It didn't shine. I'm like, oh wow, this dumb kid. But anyway, again, for the most part, the story's not exactly the same, but still pretty similar. But it is more nuanced, and I like that. Because at first I was like, oh, we're just kind of going around beating guys doing, we're just kind of doing, I think like bad things. Like are messing up, messing with people, we go defeat them, blah, blah, blah. They're all connected to, the main antagonist. We don't know that yet, though. And then we see the other Megaman. And look on the game of destiny and all that all over again. Like they're being, and like Gray / Ash are being tested, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm digging this a bit more than I was digging ZX, especially because with every Maverick you beat, you unlock more of Model A's memories and whatnot, learning more and more about what's going on. And I'm just like, oh, okay, so it's an added mystery thing that there was as well. I like this a lot. Because already the whole goal, they learn that, oh, Master Albert's behind all this stuff that's happening all over places. You're the one controlling the other like pseudoroids or whatnot, or I forget what they're called, and the other chosen Mega Man. Oh, you're the one behind all this. You confront him because a bit earlier, because I think I jumped ahead a little bit. We talked to him. We thought the character thinks, oh, well, we're on the same side, right? Nope, he's been manipulating things from behind the scenes the entire time. From the comfort of the Office of the Sage Trinity, the governing body of this new society. So we find out, we confront him. Pretty interesting cutscene happens. We shoot at him. He effortlessly blocks it all and leaves. Again, Waking Model W, Game of Destiny, Mega Man, and all that stuff. So I was just like, yeah, well, hey. So again, we fight the chosen Mega Men, get their biometals, and we actually also meet. If you're playing as Ash, you meet and fight Vent. If you're playing as Gray, you meet and fight Ale. And Determined Ash is one of the best songs in Mega Man history. I don't care. Fight me. It's great. I'm not saying the best, I'm saying one of the best. So also keep that in mind if you're gonna contest. Because it's before then, it's really business as usual. Oh, bad guy's bad guy. Keep doing what you're doing. Meet up with Vent and Ale. beat Vent or Ale, get Model ZX, continue all the rest of the game, because they're all trying to top the thing. The Model W fragments, destroy them, beat them up, do whatever. But you're hunting down the entire time, if I remember correctly. That's what they were messing with, those other guys. And yeah, that was it. Of course, the guy gets all these things together anyway, enough for it to matter. So initiate this plan. Go, how are we gonna get there? Because that's the flying fortress. Then Venter Ale brings in the Guardians, and then you go into the wily stages, the Sigma Palaces, etc., etc. Do the boss rush, and fight way through, and that's that really. But what's interesting to learn that if you're playing as Gray, you are a Reploid built by Master Albert. In the off chance that if he used to fail, he'll someone to carry on his work. The same thing as that Model A's ultimate Model Albert. Model A was also built by Master Albert. And if you're playing as Ash, you find out she's actually one of his, descendants. And we're like, oh, okay, putting in a pro-personal type thing here. That's why Model Albert is listening to both of them, because he built Gray specifically for that purpose, and Ash is of his bloodline, so she's biologically compatible. Again, obviously they don't agree with it, and they fight. They win. And that's it. Right? They win. They say goodbye to Vent and or Ale, and they leave. And yeah. I wasn't really gonna make comment on the other biometal wielders, because there really isn't much to say. It's just they don't really get a lot of screen time and a lot of words to say. They're just, again, spouting, towing the company line for the most part. Game of Destiny, Megaman, Fate of the World, kind of garbage. Yeah, they have their own individual quirks about saying it. For the most part, that's all they're really saying. Now, I don't really have a favorite character in this. In terms of design, both in and out of transformation state, Garrett, cause Zero. I'm sorry, Zero's my favorite. He always gets the upvote, regardless. But barring that, because that isn't fair to everyone else, I would probably have to give it to a character that was on screen for more than 2 seconds. To be fair, because Garrett died right quick. Admittedly, probably Ash. She was the most uppity, energetic. She always pops out when I'm thinking about this. So probably her, in all honesty. And everyone else just comes in varying orders of, since Vent and Ale are effectively the same character, and the other guys didn't get enough screen time for it to matter. And Serpent, again, he was just evil bad guy. Company owner was evil. And Albert was again evil. Doctor person was evil. There was an interesting scene at the end there where it's for some of the other members of the Sage Trinity were going to be in on it, but they didn't really get into that. There was no third one. As much as that April Fool's thing brought me hope until I learned it was an April Fool's thing. With what I think it was a week after I saw it, I'm like, phlegm. It's fake, so we're never getting one. And that made me sad. And that's all I really have to say on the ZX series. All in all, it was fun. I liked it. It wasn't a bad series of games, of 2 games by any stretch of the imagination. They were both good. I thought how the progression of one was a little compared to the other one. Me personal I did prefer Advent more in terms of gameplay, because I got more options to play the game as, instead of just Zero, Harpuya, Phantom, Fafnir, and Leviathan, and Omega Zero, in quotes, really just Zero, but yes, and eventually X again. Which, those aren't bad choices. I like the 4 Guardians of Master X as much as the next guy. I always wanted to play as them, so I got the chance to play as them in the second game. But in the first game, I was like, yes, because this is really cool and fun. But yeah. Anyway, guys, that is it for this episode of Game Talks, and I will see you guys later.